Hello YouTube, shout out to all my fragrance foxes out there and all my femme foxes as well. This is the Fragrance Runner here, bringing you another brand new video, and this one is on what size fragrances to buy, and it's coming right up. So when buying new fragrances, it's usually a bit difficult for casual goers to figure out what size fragrance to buy. Maybe they just want to try a fragrance, maybe they're looking to restock on one, maybe they want one that they really like, but they're not sure whether to get the big 6.8 or 3.3. So in this video, I hope to go over some of the practicality of buying the different size bottles. So without further ado, let's get to it. And I'm going to be going in this from size order. So I'm going to be starting from the smallest going to the biggest. So starting off, we're going to be doing the little tiny vial samples that you get at sometimes stores, or you can order them online for specific fragrances. These are pretty much only good for trying out a fragrance, maybe for a couple of days, maybe even one usage, depending on how you spray. For example, I got this one here, Creed Aventus. That's how I actually got to try it for the first time. And I knew it was a good fragrance, so I bought it online. I wore it to a wedding. I loved it. It was a beautiful scent, and it pretty much lived up to the hype. So definitely want to get a new bottle of that. But in terms of practicality, it's not really in it for me to keep buying these little small vials. Definitely gonna make the waves to get a full bottle of that so I could properly enjoy it. Starting off with what's generally the small size and fragrance selections, you got your 1 ounces, and depending on the line, they could range from 1 ounce to 1.3 ounce to 1.4. I think the Hugo Boss does like 1.3, so it all varies, but generally it's a small bottle, pretty much about 1 ounce in size. And the practicality in buying these is that these are great to have if you want to try out a fragrance and give it a proper thorough experience, like use it for about a month, see how that suits you. So if you want to buy a bigger bottle later on, you can. And if it turns out it just wasn't your thing, then you just skip out on it. You had your experience, you had your fun, it's a dead bottle, move on. And other practicality is like, if you like a fragrance, but you're not gonna need that much of it. In this case for me, it is Obsession, where I like the scent. I like to wear it from time to time, but I don't need a big bottle of this because I use it so rarely. And it's generally out of touch, but I got it because I personally like the scent. So in me, it was worth it to have at least a small bottle of it. So other use of it would be for traveling, especially if you already have a fragrance. Let's say you have a big Burberry Brit and you want to travel, getting a 1 ounce will solve that. But you could also use an atomizer. So I don't really recommend getting these for traveling. I recommend more just getting an atomizer, but to each their own. If you're comfortable picking up a small little bottle, you'll have some left over after the trip, so to each their own. And then next up on the list, we're gonna have what I encourage most people to buy, especially when trying out a new fragrance. And definitely the most common type that I buy, and that's the medium size. And these range anywhere from 1.7 to 2.5 ounce. There's a lot of 2 ounces out there. There's a lot of, in betweens. But generally it's gonna be around 1.7 to 2.5, 50 milliliters to 75 milliliters. And these are just great because in terms of affordability, they're usually the most comfortable. And typically these are great to build around your signature scent. So like, let's say you already got something that you love, it's your go-to scent, but you want to expand a little bit out there. You don't have to get such a big bottle for that. And that's why I really recommend mediums and why I have so much of them, because it's easier to control my fragrance usage. It's more efficient for preserving a bottle. You'll use that up within the time period that it'll last at its full potential, without like having that run over or leftover, or just having it sit there on the counter with collecting dust, you're not using it. So 1.7s, 2.5s, those are the most common that I have. Definitely recommend those. It's just so much practicality to using them. You don't need a big size bottle. A lot of times pricing will say this is like $10 more or $15 more for double the size. But if you're not gonna use it, I'd rather save the 10, 15 bucks, especially for another fragrance or for just anything in my day-to-day life that I'll need, because if you're not gonna use a fragrance, I don't recommend splurging on it. And if you're unsure, I recommend getting a medium, just because if you do fall in love with the fragrance, you could always just kill that bottle and then grab another one, a bigger one that you know for sure you're gonna use. So especially when you're experimenting, gauging out, branching out, I definitely recommend medium-sized fragrances as your go-to purchase size. And then next up on the list, we got your large sizes, your standard 100 mLs to 125 mLs, your 3.3, 3.4 ounces to 4.2 ounces. And these pretty much should be purchased for your signature scent. You're gonna get your best dollar to usage ratio, you know, the best value for the amount of juice you're getting. And seriously, like, this is for the purchases you know you're gonna use, especially in a day-to-day basis, something that you've been using for years, you know. If it's only available to you the medium size, then maybe you'll want to go for it, but generally hold out for, you know, the larger size. Trust me, you know, this is for those of you who are unsure or think you're not going to use a fragrance enough, but then you end up buying so many small bottles that you end up losing out money in the long run. So if it's a scent you love, if it's your signature scent, or, you know, sometimes even if you just find a great deal on a fragrance, I definitely recommend getting the 3.3 4.2 ounces, just because you're getting your best value for your money. And seriously guys, if you use a fragrance, get the big size. That's what I mean. That, like, just imagine a year forward how much you're gonna use up. If you think you're gonna use up a certain amount of a fragrance, you know, plan ahead. Proper planning prevents poor performance. So plan ahead, you know. I could keep going on this. If it's your signature scent, just buy the large bottle, just do it, you know, save yourself the hassle, save yourself the time, and then buy smaller bottles for everything else. You know, this is for your signature scent right here. This purchase, this size bottle should be your most proud fragrance in your collection. So, you know, you may buy a medium and at that time it will upgrade, but this should be your signature scent right here, the big 3.3, 4.2 ounces. And then finally, you got your extra large bottles, and that's gonna range anywhere from 5 ounces to 6.8 ounces. And these are kind of give and take, and I think really depends on the individual. For example, if you have a signature scent that you know you love, and you're gonna just splash it and use it, and that's the only thing you're gonna use, I definitely recommend getting a bigger size bottle, just because it is gonna be the best value for your money once again. And if you're not into experimenting, like this is the one thing you use, that's what I recommend getting these for. That's what the practicality of it is. Because if you get a big bottle like this and you're still experimenting, trying out all these different bottles, give it a 2-3 years, you're still gonna have like probably over half of this left, and the fragrance is gonna begin expiring. So if you're not gonna use it, or you're using a lot of other fragrances, you know, don't buy such a big bottle. Another reason why people buy these a lot is the novelty of it. You know, they like a big bottle sitting on their counter. And it pretty much is just, you know, if it's for the novelty, if it's just for collection purposes, then, you know, more power to you. But if you're actually, you know, thinking about usage and such, make sure you're gonna use it, just because you don't want to spend so much money on a fragrance that's just gonna expire. And, you know, such a terrible thing to just let a fragrance go to waste. We don't want to do that, right? Do we? And other than that, these, along with the 3.3, 4.2 ounces, will make great gifts for people who, you know, love a fragrance. For instance, if you know somebody loves Sauvage, this will be like the best Christmas ever. If you just got them a big 6.8 ounce, they'll love you for life. However, if it's a more casual gift, if it's for somebody you don't really know, or, you know, you're just kind of testing the waters, it's perfectly fine to do like a medium, maybe even a nice 1 ounce set to give as a gift, just because, you know, same principle, you don't want the fragrance going to waste. You want the person to actually use the gift you're giving them. And a lot of times if you give somebody a 1 ounce and they don't really like it, they'll still use it. Same thing with a medium. If you give somebody a big 6.8 ounce, you know, a lot of times they'll give it away just because they feel they don't want it to go to waste. And that's the video, guys. Definitely hope, you know, it broadened your perception a little bit, gave you some kind of direction or idea of what to do when you're buying new fragrances and what size to actually buy. And definitely wishing you guys all the best. I have one little goal or challenge for all my casual viewers, and that's to expand your fragrance collection to at least a minimum of 5 bottles this year. Just because that's what I believe everybody should have, just for all sorts of different purposes. You know, your casual wears, your date nights, your comfortable nights, your family nights, your not try too hard nights, or, you know, days as well. you know, daytime, nighttime, hot, cold, so many different occasions, so many different fragrances to capitalize on. So I challenge all of you guys to raise your minimum fragrance count to 5. And with that, I'm signing off. This is the Fragrance Runner wishing you all to stay fresh.